Good morning, everyone. Today's presentation will be about role of technical expert in management system audits by our expert, Mr. Ajay Bajpai, who is global IMS lead auditor trainer over 35 years of experience. So I request him now to quickly start this session.
Good morning to you all. Today we are going to discuss a topic which is very critical for the auditing process with respect to the processes and products of the client, the service activity of the client who has applied for certification, or it can be a situation of an internal audit or second party or other kind of third, fourth party audits maybe. So the important point is to understand the concept. What is the concept? Why a technical expert is required into auditing of management system? When I say management system, we know there are several management systems which start from ISO 9001 to 50001 and onwards, which we are providing the training and conducting the internal auditor and lead auditor courses as well. So theme means what? Why we need a technical expert? See, the client who has applied for certification of management system of any type, he has got certain products, processes, and service activity. That needs to be understood by the team of auditors. Many times what happens, the audit team which is going to be selected for the conduct of the 1 day or 2 day of audit of a particular, say for example, hospital. So there is no doctor available with qualification and experience in the team of auditors. So a technical expert is required, kind of a doctor, depending upon what is the scope of the hospital, so that he can provide technical inputs to the audit team. If audit team is on the same wavelength as of the client products and processes service activity movement, they can go together very well into the auditing. And auditing becomes a value added activity. What are the requirements? The requirements also, clients also want to have an auditor coming with an expertise of its products and processes. Certification body also requires that, accreditation boards also require that, ISO committees and IAF also requires that, so that the understanding levels are clear. What are the expectations? Expectations of all these interested parties, as I have told, are that they are on to the similar kind of a understanding of the products, processes and service activity which is being audited. So that when discussion is on, when auditing is on, understanding levels are clear. An auditor in a hospital should not be talking of a welding activity unnecessarily for 1 hour. Okay. Or electrical engineer into a food industry should not be asking of a current carrying capacity of the electrical wire unnecessarily for 2 hours. So these are all the expectations. And what is the role of a expert? This role we have discussed. It is very important that yes, audit becomes a value-added activity, and it needs to be agreed between the certification body and the client prior to the conduct of the audit. Because sometimes the client may object. Many clients have got very, secretive kind of formulations into pharmaceutical industry, maybe, or chemical industry. So they don't want a person as a technical expert to visit who can take away their technology. It has been happening into auditing sometimes. So the client has got an opportunity and authority to object to a technical expert visiting. So it needs to be agreed in advance. And communication of the availability of and the role of the technical expert is done via audit plan. We have understood audit plan in details in many webinars. So this information is given to the client via audit plan. Technical experts shall not act as an auditor in the audit team. If technical expert is selected for a particular purpose, for half day, for 1 day, kind of a situation for a particular department or process audit, he should not be directly auditing the management system of the client, because he does not have the technology maybe of auditing. He may not be qualified as per ISO 19011, which many even the auditors do not understand. They have undergone the course, but I'm sorry to say they still do not understand the attributes, the requirement, the philosophy and the technology of auditing as per ISO 19011. So questions are asked by the audit team members, auditors, not by the technical expert directly, generally, in a situation of audit. Technical expert preferably should not be moving around into the organization. He may have the guide, but he also needs to be accompanied by an auditor so that the auditee does not get into a question answer session with technical expert unnecessarily, which happens in many audits we have seen. Study the scope of the audit. While we are going to go for a selection of the technical expert, we need to understand what is the scope of the audit. Scope of the audit, as I discussed earlier, consists of products, processes, design, no design, customer property, applicability of sites, temporary sites, and so on. So based upon that, this selection and role of technical expert is decided by the audit team management team. Also, we look at the availability of audit team members for the scope. Sometimes we may not require a technical expert. Audit team members may have the capability. So one of the audit team members may have the technical code. So he can be in a way treated as a technical expert for that particular process area, and he can conduct the audit with respect to the scope which has been applied by the client. Also, we further look at the availability of code competence in the audit team. Again, gets interrelated. Whatever is the code allotted to the client, it is a hospital, it is a school, it is a college, it is a university, it is a solar manufacturing. So that kind of a code competence should be available in the audit team. And that is how and why we are requiring the technical expert, and his role is very important. Also, sometimes we do not check this availability in advance, and CB teams and even the client team, sometimes depending upon what kind of audit it is, they are running around to hunt for the technical expert at the last moment. So availability needs to be checked in advance. For example, audit dates are 18, 19, 21st of October. So let's start checking the availability from first week of October, not from 16th, 17th October. Nobody is sitting free to become a part of audit team and technical expert. Everybody is doing his job, and particularly technical expert may be working in some company. He is already employed somewhere. He may not be free on those days. Many times, technical expert can provide a lot of advice during the preparation and planning of audit also. Sometimes the technical experts are much more experts than the audit team members. It depends upon their knowledge and experience. They might have become a auditor at times by conducting many audits, might have been qualified as lead auditor also. So they also can provide advice and input during the planning and preparation stage of the audit. It is our audit team management and the lead auditor how well they can seek the information and input. It is depending upon their capability totally. Then, as we discussed, again into the implementation part, technical expert will provide technical input to audit team members into a hospital. If we are going into a surgery, a review is being done as a mechanical engineer or a metallurgist, which I am, and electrical engineer in the team, they may not understand the surgery or anesthetic operations or post curing treatment in a hospital. So he is the person who will provide technical input for asking the questions, and he will explain to the audit team members these are the requirements, how the report should have been of the surgery and post treatment, or how a university is approved by UGC and so on. He can also provide guidance on processes like design. Some technical expert has got in-depth knowledge of design activity of a particular product and process. Other than the product and process requirement, he may provide additional input onto the design activity of the client's processes. He can also provide guidance on temporary site status. If we are going for example, construction site auditing, there are temporary sites. There are companies who are doing installations of machinery and equipment. So they also have got temporary sites. So he provides guidance on to the existence, requirement, importance, and situation and status of the temporary sites to the audit team members. Today we know there are a lot of software being applied into a client product processes and service activities globally. There are various apps. So this technical expert fellow, he may have good and adequate knowledge on to various software applications as well, and he can, as appropriate, provide guidance to the audit team members. Then we need to understand how identification and approval of technical expert is done. Client team, CB team, AB team may already have an existing database. From there, they can select a technical expert for client to be audited depending upon what is the scope and technical code. Then what happens? His CV, his resume is received into the CB or AB office team, and then they review the experience, the qualification, and it is required to have their qualification certificates as well. Otherwise, how do you have the confidence that yes, he is a doctor by qualification, he understands surgery, he understands the requirement of the ambulance, he understands the requirement of the COVID-19 application or the new viruses coming in today if we are going for an audit of that kind of a client. Discussion and interview. Before selection of T and approval, the approving team have a lot of discussion, and at times the interview is conducted so that an assessment is done to seek information about his appropriateness before he can be approved for a particular technical code and particular scope. Then he also needs to sign the confidentiality and conflict of interest, because if he is going for a particular audits or many audits, all auditors by requirement are bound by confidentiality and conflict of interest clauses, so that they do not get into discussions in other direction, and they do not take away the information and technology of the client which is being audited. It is very important. We have, particularly our team has seen many such situations where there were non-conformities onto the T, where he was going beyond all this despite signing. But signing is a minimum requirement. Then further controls are brought in place by lead auditor and auditor in the team. Then his technical code is allotted so that his services can be utilized for that kind of a industry application. Also, performance monitoring is done, because a lot of feedback coming on audit team and technical auditors from the client. Client is giving feedback. Certification bodies have got a system to get feedback after the audit is conducted. So client have a opportunity and situation and maybe authority, I would say, to give a feedback. And then performance monitoring of the T is behavior, attributes, and so on is very well seen into the picture, and further decision and discussions are done how well a particular T has performed, so that a decision for its utilization into further auditing is to be taken or not to be taken. All those is conducted through performance monitoring of the T fellow. Right? Once we do all this, then we get back to analysis and future action. We can do all well here, but if we do not do effective analysis of the T role and objectives criteria, and this particular process, if it is not subject to effective internal audit, then we may not get the desired results out of audit conducted, and CB, AB client performance may deteriorate further if not subject to internal auditing by trained and competent internal audits. Once that is done, then the results of internal audit with respect to this process are in front of the teams, and they take the document data for effective conduct of a management review meeting with respect to T objectives and targets. Okay, so the minutes of meeting are developed, and further tracking and implementation is verified how well this T role has been put into shape, put into place, how this has added value to the auditing system, how certification process got into a value added direction by comments and observation of the technical expert who has been operating through the audit team, and he is supporting the audit team to for the conduct of a value added auditing. Value addition, again, we always say is done through non-conformity and observation, which if are supported with T, which is qualification and expertise, it takes a positive direction and client's feedback will be good and positive for further performance improvement. So here is the improvement based upon PDCA management principles and the technology of T role analysis and utilization of 19011 for effective implementation into the auditing. Once we are able to reach this situation, we need to understand into more depth from where? From various available websites of certification bodies where they have approval from Exemplar Global, INC for trainings, internal audit, lead auditor awareness courses, and so on, and also certification of various management systems under UAF with IAF accreditation and so on into various certification body, TNV certification, TNV system certification, guardian assessment, and learning through TNV Academy, for which I am conducting this training session, learning without limit. All these webinars after we conduct are going to our various YouTube channels and TNV Academy channels, TNV Institute websites, where the global team can learn and educate themselves and go into the qualification also by self-learning, where standards are changing. All this is being demonstrated effectively. So let's quickly go through what we have discussed. The concept understanding is very important. Theme requirement, expectations of all the interested parties from client to the IAF, I would say. Okay. Communication via audit plan is very important so that the client gets an opportunity to say yes or no in time. And technical expert should not be conducting as an auditor unless he is also qualified as an auditor and authorized by audit plan to conduct an audit. He generally should be accompanied by guide and auditor. He should not be moving around to wondering about the company alone. Then study the scope of audit is very critical for taking a decision on the planning the role of the technical expert. His job is to provide technical input to the audit team members. He can also provide a lot of guidance depending upon the scope of the client, technical code of the client, and with respect to what technical capability he himself has acquired or he is going to acquire in future when we are going through performance monitoring. Performance monitoring is the key to success. Then analytical mode of auditing, going through the analysis, use small group activity, cross-functional teams, monitor the implementation of the process, conduct effective internal audit, followed by management review meetings of T roles and T utilization and what kind of inputs he has provided to the team of auditors. And finally, the improvements are brought about into the technical utilization of the technical expert into the management system auditing. So this is what I thought I will discuss today. And if you have any questions, you all are most welcome to ask me. Thank you.
I thank you all on behalf of TNV Academy. We appreciate you being here. Thanks again for joining us today, and we will see you all next time. Thank you.